Welcome back to the Motorcycle Fixer channel. Today I'm going to be carrying on with our KX250 rebuild. We'll put the cases together, put the piston in, put the barrel on, see how far we get basically. So I'm basically going to start where I left off. The new tube, oil pickup tube, and the new seals have come. So we're going to start off putting the tube in. We're going to seal the gasket faces and then basically put it back together. Okay, following on from the video last week, I said that make sure that this clutch push rod fits through the center of this shaft. I've had it in the past on a different engine where this part was too big to go through the shaft, and I bolted it all back together and then had to take it apart to put the clutch push rod back in. So this one is okay, it goes all the way through, so we can put it in when we do the clutch, but learn from my mistakes. Always check that before you put the other casing on. So what we're going to do now is we're going to oil up our gears, a transmission as always, make sure they spin, and then we're going to give them a good coating of oil just to make sure everything is nice and lubricated. You don't want it starting up dry. Okay, so everything's down in the right position, so we're okay with that. Now we're going to put our oil pickup tube. We're going to get a little bit of gasket sealant, and I'm just going, so you can get some out. I'm just going to put a little bit of gasket sealant on the end of our coolant tube. And the only reason I'm doing that is so that when I put this in, the seal stays in place when I put it in. So the sealant, coolant, oil tube, we'll get that. Oil tube goes and sits just there. So that's that seal done on there. Now we're gonna put our gasket sealant around the cases. I've made sure all this is nice and clean and dry. No old sealant left on the actual face itself. Same on the other half of the casings. So we're just gonna put this all the way around. I mean, you can put this on and go all the way around, then squirt in there like that, but to be honest with you, I just find it's a waste and it goes everywhere. So I just like to put it like this on my finger and then just go around the cases, making sure that you cover each part, and then you don't, when you bolt them together, it's not like a big splurge. And I find that a lot easier. So I'm just going to go around all the casing like that, making sure that I've got coverage on every part of the casing. I'm not going to bore you going all the way around. I'm going to skip this at some point, and don't quite know how to fast forward it yet. I'm going double speed, so probably just going to skip. Okay, there we are, all around. It's got gasket sealant on it. Just going to put in now our two hollow dowels. One in the front there, one at the back. Just like that. Then we're going to get our left side engine casing, and we're going to slide that just over the top. And we may just have to give that a tap now, just to seat it down over the crank. There we are, so now we're going to just give that a tap. I have ordered a plastic mallet, so I'm waiting for it to come. I'm just tapping on the outside of the cases where there's nothing I can damage. It is actually going down. I think. Is it going down? I don't know. Yes, it's definitely going down. That's good. Let's put our block back. Just there. Okay. A little bit more to go. Just make sure when you're hitting anything like this, you're not damaging something, because the aluminium is soft. The ideal thing would be to press it, really. Yeah. Okay, now I've only got about a 10mm gap, so I've put these 3 bolts in here, and I'm just going to take it down slowly on these bolts, just so that I don't damage anything hammering it. So we're just going to do a couple of threads each time. Hopefully I'll just pull it down into place. And that'll be a lot better. I'm going to say it again, I would usually do this on the press, but I just can't get my press at the moment, so it's an absolute nightmare. But okay. But there we are. It's coming together. Everything seems to be lined up. So we're just going to take it down slowly. No rush. Make sure everything's in line. Take it down slowly. Just these 3 bolts for the moment. Then we got our cases all together. There we are. Those 3 bolts. tight. And our transmission, our output shaft is still spinning, so that's perfect. You can just wipe away some of the excess from around the outside, and then we're just going to put the rest of our bolts in now. And the last one, that was the last one. So there we are. Okay, now we've got it all bolted up. Our transmission is spinning. That's perfect. Can remove all the extra sealant from around the outside. Don't need it. Just remove it. I usually just remove all the bits and pieces that you can get to. Now we need to get, as you can see now, and this will happen, is that your crank won't turn, or it's very stiff. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see that, I'll have to, maybe I'll remove this a minute. So you can see that our crank is difficult to turn. So that's all you need to do when it's like that, is you just need to give it a tap. If you look at the distance between the crank and the case in there and the crank and the case in there, we need to just give the crank a tap. So we just tap the ends, this side or this side, depending on which way you want to go. You don't want to hit it too hard, you just want to give it a tap, and then that'll free it up. So right, there we are. So I'm just going to give this a tap now this way, and there we are. You can see now that it's spinning freely, and that's a great job. So that is it, that's it now. Our cases are together. Our transmission is turning lovely. Our crank is turning nicely. So now we can move on to the next part, which is putting our piston on and our barrel, and just so that we'll get all this encased in then with the piston and the barrel. And then that'll stop anything from going down and anything getting in this part, because the last thing we want anything to do is anything to get inside our big end bearing or anything. So we'll put the piston and the barrel on, and then nothing will be able to get down in there. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to build our piston up. But what we really need to do is we're going to put something, I guess, on this blue roll, and we're going to put it down the bow to make sure nothing falls down. Right, we need to build our piston up now. It goes that way. There's an arrow on this. It's what is it? Wasner piston. It's got exhaust and an arrow pointing on this one. Sometimes it's just an arrow on there, and all the arrows always point to the exhaust, or out, so it points out basically. Okay, so first we need to put a clip, gudgeon pin clip. Our gudgeon pin clip, we need to put one of these in the one side. So hopefully we should be able to just get that in without it flying around the room. These ones are quite stiff actually, I might have to get a... yeah, okay, I'll be back. the ones on this are a nightmare. They don't know, they seem to be very springy, for want of a better word. And there we are. That's that one in. As you can see, it is quite difficult. I have got a tool that you push it in, but because of this step I can't use those on this particular piston, so it is difficult to get in. It's handy though if, unlike me, you've got a clean floor, because if it goes ping, sometimes you just can't find it and you end up buying more. But okay, that one's in. What we're going to do now is we're going to we need to put our piston rings on next. So I don't know if you've watched my other video on pit bike piston rings assembly. And basically it's exactly the same on this one. First we put the corrugated oil ring in. Make sure that it goes end to end and not overlaps itself. Then we're going to get our thin oil rings. To the bottom one first. They don't seem to want to stay in there, they don't. Okay. These oil rings are quite flexible, so they're not as difficult. But now my corrugated ring has overlapped, so it's not sitting properly, so there we are. Put that back and then put that bottom one in like that. Okay. Bottom one's in, all nice and tight. So put the top one in now. You want to be at least 90 degrees out from the end of the bottom one, so let's find the end of the bottom one. There it is, so we'll turn it round and then we'll put our second oil ring in like so, and that's the oil rings fitted. Okay, now we're going to put our top ring in. There's only one ring, actual compression ring on these. And it's marked with an R on this one. I don't know if you can't see it, I suppose, but it's marked with an R. The writing always goes up. And really speaking, you want the end of this one to be at least 90 degrees out from the end of the top ring. So we're gonna put this one on. Like so. And there's our rings fitted. Okay. Now we're gonna get our oil can now, and we're just gonna lubricate all the way round. Lubricate the skirts, lubricate all around the piston like so, and then we need to just lubricate in where the gudgeon ring sits, and the same in our engine. Right. I'm going to come back here now. We're going to lubricate in our top end bearing. We've got our gudgeon pin. That tastes disgusting. Which is pre-lubricated. We're just going to put a bit more on there. And we're going to start it off in our piston. So we're going to put it in the one side of our piston there. Like that. Obviously the side that haven't got the clip in it. And we just need to put the gudgeon pin all the way through up to the clip on the other side. Now, this is where things get tricky. You've got to try and put this clip on now without losing it down into the engine. That's why we put the blue roll around here, so that if we do drop it, it won't go down into the bottom end. And this is the tricky one, so hopefully it'll be a bit easier than the last one, but I can't see it. I'm going to try and move my camera angle. Right, I've tried the camera, but it's difficult to get a good shot today. Right, to move the camera so you can see, but I don't know how easy it is going to be with my fingers in there as well anyway to see it. So, but now I got that in there. Now I'm going to try and just push the rest of the ring into place. And there we are. Just make sure that the clip is all the way into the groove, all the way round. You don't want it coming back out basically, because then your gudgeon pin will push out and it'll be rubbing the rubber side in your cylinder, and it won't run for very long like that. Okay, so there we are. That's our piston fitted. Don't forget to take this blue roll out. I have actually put an engine back, or put the top end on with the blue roll still in there. And sometimes that's what you get for rushing. So let's put some more oil on the skirts. Make sure it's all lubricated. Oops, sorry. Then we're going to get our cylinder. Our cylinder is over here. This. Our cylinder has been replated. I'm not sure if this is the one I had repaired, but it's been replated anyway. Sandblasted, plated. It's very good actually. It's very nice job. Okay, just make sure there's no bits or pieces in there. Then we're going to lubricate the cylinder. So all the cross hatching in the cylinder. Really speaking, you need to fill the cross hatches with oil. And that's your lubrication then for the piston rings. So we want to put a good covering in there actually. And any excess then you can take out before when you lift the piston up. And there's our bottom end gasket here. We'll put that on. I think that there's supposed to be some hollow dowels in these two holes. So we've got our two oil feed hollow dowels there and there. And I think that's it. So then we can put our barrel on, our piston. Making sure not to break the rings, which is always handy. It's always better if you get the gap Sometimes I find it easier to get a gap where the housing is actually. So doing that for right. There we are then. That's the top one in, and there we are. We're over the oil rings. Before you push it all the way down, just make sure one of your oil rings isn't caught underneath the skirt of your barrel. But there we are. And that's our barrel fitted. So we turn it over now. You can wipe some of the excess oil from around the top. One of our dowels that come out. Okay, put it back down. There we are. Right, I always find it better to put it at top dead centre there now and leave it. The next thing really then should be, we should put our cam chain in. But this cam chain now, I don't know, this cam chain, if you can see, has some tight spots in it. So I'm gonna buy a new one and replace that. It might just be because it's been a long time since I stripped it down, but I'm not going to put a chain like that back in a brand new rebuild. So okay, so while we're waiting for our cam chain, we're going to start fitting the clutch on this side, because we can get on with that without having that fitted. So we're going to start fitting this. First thing we got to do is we're going to fit the gear on the end of the crankshaft. I'm just gonna put some oil on it. That to go in the seal. There we are. And you've got your washer. There's a concave washer on here, like a Belleville washer, I suppose you could call it. And then the nut. The nut for this is a left-hand thread. So just remember, if you're wondering why when you're taking one of these apart, why you can't get it apart, remember it's a left-hand thread. When you put this nut back on the end of the crank, it's a good idea just to put some low strength Loctite on it. You only need a little bit. That's too much. Yeah, you only need a little bit just to lock it and stop it from vibrating off. So we're just going to put that on, and then I'm going to spin it up with my torque gun. And there we are. And that's enough with the spring Belleville washer. It's enough to just hold that in place. Okay, so now we're going to put this idle gear actually. This idle gear is next. If you take it off, and that comes on, it's not oiled on by anything, so it will come off, so don't forget to put that in. Then we're going to put our clutch basket in, and with our clutch basket we've got our clutch basket bearings. We're going to give those a good oil as well. Just move the camera. There we are. better. So then our clutch basket, we've got to make sure then that this gear meshes with these two. This gear meshes with our crank. You just need to mesh all three at the same time. There we are. And that's all the way in. Just a tip for that, after you've used your Loctite, if you turn the bottle up and then squeeze it until it's sucked air back into the bottle, if you put the top back on there, and it stops it from getting blocked up for next time you want to use it. Then we've got this big washer on here. Then we have our clutch in there. It goes on. And then we'll put our plates in. Now I'm going to put these clutch plates in. I'm going to give the fibre clutch plates a coating of oil. This is going to be messy because I usually put these in a tub of oil and then put them in to save the mess, but I haven't got a clean tub. So there's one fibre, one steel, there we are. And another one, we're going to give it some oil again. See? That'll help stop them from sticking together when you start the bike up. When you kick it into gear then, with the clutch in, it shouldn't jump forward. Just another steel. There's another one. They are still wet from when I took them out because I didn't separate them from the steels in the packaging, so when I packed everything up. So as you can see, the steels are still covered in oil, so it's not too bad. There we are. Another one. There we go. And another one. And a steel. And another one. And another steel, and then our last fibre. So there we are. That's our clutch in. So we've got our spline washer. Goes on over the end of the spline on there, like so. And then we have our clutch nut, and that goes on like that. We're going to spin this one up again with the right side socket. So we're going to spin this centre nut up. And that's that done. Turn that up to keep our piston at top dead centre. Okay, so that's our clutch basket on. Next we're going to put our clutch pushing shaft through. So on this end of it, when you put it in, there's a ball bearing, and on the other end it gets pushed by the clutch lever, as we saw earlier in the last video, I think. So the one that touches on the ball bearing, which goes this side, has got a round dent in it, so you know that's the end really that pushes on the ball bearing. It doesn't actually matter which way round this goes, but that's the way it was before, so it's best to put it back as it was. So there we are. We're going to put that in through. Just put it against your clutch lever, and I'm operating the clutch lever. You can see that it's pushing it, so that's exactly what we want, so we know that's working. And then this end is our what pushes the clutch on and off. So inside there is a little ball bearing. Sometimes that falls out and gets lost, so just check when you put in dirt pipe back together, make sure that the ball bearing is in here. So there we are, that sits in there on top of our clutch lever. There we are. So that's all good. We can fit our outer clutch. When you fit this, just make sure that it sits down over the ridges in here. If it's sat up proud like that, oh, there we are. Sometimes you can have them and they sat with a gap there. You just need to make sure that the outer plate is tight against the last fibre, and then you know then, especially if you pull it forward like that, you need to make sure that there's not a gap there, because if it is a gap there, it's not fitted correctly. So now we got our 5 springs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we have our 5 bolts. They've got captive washers on them. So we're going to put these on. And we're going to tighten each one of those down. So that's like that, and then we're going to tighten each one of those up. So I'm going to knock the camera off now, and then you can come back when that's tightened. Okay, so 10 out of 10 for everybody who noticed that I hadn't put the gear change lever back in. So I've had to take the clutch block off. But there we are. Okay, gear change lever. This little washer spacer has got to go on the end of this pip there. See that one? And then your gear change lever goes in there. Make sure that the washer, that washer there, is on here to stop this. It stops the circlip on there, stops that from damaging your casing because it just rides on the aluminium. So that washer is important. So we're just going to push that through like so, and make sure that it sits over there like that. At this point, it's a good idea to check that our gears are all working. Please, gears, please be working. the plate of the bike guards. So we're going to put our gear lever on. And we're just going to make sure that we can go up and down. That's in neutral. Second, third, fourth. Sorry, that'll be fifth, wouldn't it? First is down, isn't it? There we are, it's first. Neutral. Second, third, fourth, fifth. There we are. So we know our gears are working. So that's very good. So now we can put the clutch back on. And I've already shown you that, so I won't bore you with it a second time. I'll see you in a little while. So there we are. The clutch is all tightened up now. Everything on this side of the engine is in. I'm not going to put the clutch cover back on until I put the head on and everything on the other side. I might put the clutch cover back on when it's in the bike actually. Might just be easier. So there we are. That's going to be it for this video because we're going to wait for the cam chain to come in. And that's a couple of days away at the moment, so we're still waiting for that.